Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's the end of January already. Good God. Wasn't it just like it was just Christmas yesterday, wasn't it? I think so.
It was just it was just COVID, I thought.
It was just the COVID just a minute ago.
Yeah.
Rodney, how are you? Good to see you this week. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, I hate to miss last week. I was traveling back this week, so glad to be here. Good to see you.
Hey, you need a break. You know, we all need a break from time to time, and I understand. Hey, there is Ange. How are you this morning, my California friend? I love it. There you go. She's painting.
Nice. Hey, she needs to give us an update on the husband.
Yes, we do. I would like to know that if she would share that, either direct message or whatever you're comfortable with. You've got my email. Now we're gonna I'm gonna ask you about this. Maybe not everybody's. I'm gonna ask you. So you told us you were going to go duck hunting down there in Georgia someplace. Did you have a good time?
Oh, it was an unbelievable time. Yeah, it was Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Jeez. Me and my family's duck hunted for a long time, and my junior in college got to hunt the last several days together. Had some really good hunts and spent time together, and just an awesome time. And back, duck season will be over. Duck season is really over for me. It ends tomorrow, but since I'm in Tennessee and it's in Arkansas, my season is done. So I go into a couple-week depression here, Andy. So I apologize if I'm not as perky on these.
Well, I'll go buy a chicken at the store and race around the office, and you can try to shoot it.
Yeah, I'll try to shoot it with my shotgun. You just hold it high.
I will. Hey, if anybody is not familiar with Rodney and I, my name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. And this is Rodney Wilds, loan officer with First Trust, also Williamson County, Tennessee. Our goal on this channel is to share what's going on in the economy. We typically base it on housing. That's what it is, or things that surround the housing market. So if you're getting ready to buy a house or sell a house or doing something in real estate, and you have questions, feel free to give us a call. The contact information is going to be in the description box and in the comments section below. So don't be shy. Give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, any way you want to get a hold of us. So would love to chat with you. So enough on that. So I think it's time.
It's time. Hey, I'll add something before you do that is
yes.
It doesn't something to add something. It doesn't have to be necessarily a deal that I'm working on or you're working on. Like I had a lady, a past client, that's entering into a transaction that I'm not going to be a part of. But since I've done her financing the last couple times, me and my assistant are still trying to help her guide through, any other loan prospects she might lead, because she's buying a house that I can't do a loan on. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a loan that we're doing or I'm doing. We would give you advice otherwise. Like if it's something else, if you need a second set of eyes, or, hey, I don't know about this, but I'm afraid to ask, we're open for questions. So having my friend that I was working with, and she may be using somebody else for financing. She it was just kind of on my mind, so I thought I'd bring it up here that we can help no matter what the question is. It's not necessarily about doing the loan or whatever.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. And I need to get better at making that clear, because really what we're all about is, hey, maybe you need a second set of ears on a situation like Rodney said, whatever the situation is, and we're here for that. So thank you very, very much for bringing that up. So moving on, now that we've covered that, and I'll try to do that better every week, Rodney. Thank you for that. It is going to be our favorite section. The truth is, right. I've got that music baked in there. So here we go.
All right. Wow, what a ride this is.
Ooh.
This is a what is this? We're this is a new chart. This is the first time I'm seeing this too. This looks like a 6-month chart from August uh, to December right here. You can see, October, our rates started improving drastically, and we've been ticking around up here, just kind of steady as it goes, a little up, a little down. Had 2 lock alerts, January 16th, and then we had another lock alert here on, looks like January 24th. So after that, seeing a little bit of improvement, but overall, you can see since October we've had a major improvement, which is exciting for the fact that, in my opinion, we are starting off the year 2024 where a lot of people were projecting we were ending up at. So,
Yeah, and for those of us that don't live in your world, what's a lock alert again?
a lock alert is basically when this service, this mortgage MBS Highway here, this company I use to tell me about the market, what the market's doing. They will alert me when they feel like mortgage investors are going to reprice their loans for the day. And basically, what
Okay.
they're saying is, if you got any customers out there, we think that there's going to be a reprice in your market for the worse, and you need to lock your guys in.
Got it. Okay. And are we done with this chart for today?
We're done.
Okay. That's well, and I think that it's no surprise, and everything that I've been reading, anybody that watches us, what Rodney and I do is we stay on top of what's going on in the news. Well, that's how we generate our shows and come up with our opinions, because anything dealing with future events is an opinion. I mean, that's just what it is, and we give our interpretation, and we do that because we're in the market. Rodney lives and breathes these numbers. When it's not ducks, it's money, it's numbers.
Yes, right.
And me being a musician, when it's not guitar, it's real estate. So, but we keep an eye on these things. And so today, what I wanted to touch on was really 2 topics that well, do you know what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is rate day. So shall we take our bets today?
Well, I don't know if anybody's betting today. It's going to. Are you betting for March or April? Is that what you're betting on?
No, the bet would be are we going to hold, or are we going to cut, raise, or hold?
Oh, yeah, I think the whole world's projecting hold.
Yeah, me
right
too.
now.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean it's I think we're on a hold. I think they've talked about they've talked about the more aggressive plan, but it's not till spring,
Yes.
So
yeah, and that's what we're hearing. And so that's what the first section, the first segment of our show today is about, the signals that the Fed sends, and it can be from any number of people. And the title today is 5 Signs That Are Screaming There's a Rate Cut Coming. Well, the fact is, where we get the idea that changes are coming, it's a word. It's usually a word that Jerry said he's had during the course of a conversation. He'll add, and we're optimistic, or we're going to hold on. It's the slightest thing, and then the whole world reacts, and that's where all the headlines come from. So I was making fun of that, screams. But so federal policymakers have signaled they won't cut U.S. interest rates just yet. Most economists think that it's going to be June. Now, there's those that think it's going to be at one cycle earlier. But the central bankers have kept the Fed benchmark overnight interest rate, and this is from, number one, Reuters article, and it's recent. It's January 26th. And for me, I have a lot of respect for Reuters. I think they're responsible and respectable. So,
yeah, I think they've always put a pretty good message out there.
Yeah, they're not sensationalist at all, is what I'm getting at. Because
Yeah.
I know you and I make light of some of these guys that are the sky is falling kind of stuff. And maybe that's what we need to do. You know, the sky has fallen, Rodney. Get an umbrella, quick. But they're holding their interest rates at 5.25 and 5 to 5.50. That's what they're holding their projections. But I want to show you something here. The Fed rate outlooks, we never really know. You know, these guys are coming up with those numbers. Well, here's how they work. Here's how they look. During the end of 2024, they had been rising. That number had been rising. In my opinion, I think it's the equivalent of putting your foot on the brake a little harder. I think is probably what that is. And so they were predicting that 5.25, much, pushing 6% in September. But now, because signs are showing that we're actually, inflation is, I'm going to say, beginning to be handled. I mean, there's some numbers that are coming in that's below the 2% goal, which is fabulous.
Right.
And so these projections, these outlooks, they're saying, oh, we don't have to put the brakes on so hard. I mean, that's fabulous news in my opinion.
Yes, I'll add in, last week or the week before, we were talking about the Fed hawks are the ones who still were considering in December of last year a rate hike.
Yes.
You remember, I think it was Michelle Bowman, and in this article, they've even said they're now open to the possibility of rate cuts if inflation continues to fall. So even the worst ones are coming around to, the thought that the rest of the world is that we're probably due for some rate cuts shortly.
Yeah, and I mean, the best way I can put this, I don't think it qualifies as miracle, but the way that the numbers have started to come down, and everybody was kind of making fun of Powell about, we're not going to be able to avoid a recession. I mean, it just looked like it was going to be this bloody mess. And I got to tell you, no, we're not out of it yet. But unless I miss my guess, by the end of this thing, he's going to be looking like the smart guy in the room.
He's going to be looking like the soft landing of all soft landings, isn't it? It looks like, because honestly, the thing that they were, when they first put this out, one of the first things that they even said was that they understood that job losses were going to happen, and job losses were a part of controlling this inflation. And we're going to, if this thing, like he said, they're trying not to mess it up. They're right on a balancing act of, they don't want to hold on to the higher rates, and they don't want to start lower them too soon, right?
Yep.
So they're right here at this balancing risk kind of position, but they know they're still doing this and potentially going lower right now while jobs have been strong this whole time.
Yeah.
Their initial, I mean, that's just huge for Americans. A lot of people didn't lose their jobs during this inflation or crash landing, or however we want to put it. It's pretty good. Yeah.
In order to get the money to stop flowing, you got to pinch it off someplace, and overall, it seems it is kind of neat because, I mean, think about this. Price pressures clearly are cooling down. I mean, the message is clear on that. The PCE, the personal consumption expenditures, it's different from the CPI. That's the actual you and me spending monies on bread and chicken, and I don't know if fuel's included in that or not. But that went up 2.6% in December from a year earlier. That as an inflation rate, that's really good. Underlying inflation on a 6-month and 3-month annualized basis is running below 2%. That's really good. And nobody's, as far as I can tell, nobody's starving to death. We seem to be coming through that. And it said, following the release of this data, the traders slightly favored the Fed's April 30th to May 1st policy meeting over March as a likely kickoff series for the rate cuts. And yeah, that makes sense. yeah, Fed officials so far are saying that progress on inflation still isn't enough, but they don't want rate cuts when they eventually deliver them to be a surprise, which is when we talk about the 5 things that are being said, which we're going to follow with here. That's the point.
Yeah,
when
and it's pretty interesting that they're how they call it. I guess their policy adjustments is giving themselves a little bit more flexibility in their upcoming meetings by adapting their policy changes or whatever on this. And I think that's. I just don't remember as much communication coming outwardly as what they were trying to do. Like they're talking about a string of rate cuts, right? And we all know that when they project a string of rate cuts, not Walmart, Walmart's going to get ahead. The stock market will get ahead of it, and they're going to start pricing this stuff in before it actually happens. So that's why they've always kept their cards very close to their chest in their meetings, and like you say, it's one word or two. But look at some of this article about what they're saying is that they're talking about future policies, additional rate cuts coming. It's starting in April or could be more or a cycle sooner, and they just haven't spoken like that. To me, it seems a new communication coming from them versus how it's been in the past. It may be just this cycle. I don't know, but
well, I think about this. That's a really good point. It's a new way of communication, or maybe it's just more obvious to me this time. And that's why this article struck me as interesting. But it's a communication, quite frankly, that seems to be working. That's the point. That's my point. Is that people are picking up what he's putting down without going nuts. There doesn't seem to be any panic. I watch a lot of the financial networks, on TV, and because I'm kind of trying to take their temperatures too. There's nobody in a panic. Stock market's doing nicely.
Yeah.
Right. And here's one of the things that
most of my time on the cooking shows, like this guy had his egg recipe the other day.
How to bake a duck. I bet you got that figured out. Now, one of the things that they mentioned, and we had mentioned this quite a while ago, that when we're talking about saving the economy or soft landing, all that kind of stuff, the economy it's huge. Housing is huge. And it's like turning a battleship. I mean, you can make a turn, but it doesn't take effect for quite a period of time, And so,
that's a great analogy. Is when you're trying to, slow down some crazy inflation, and then not crashing it, and then like I said, turning this battleship around the other way to get it going again, or a little bit better. In our market, anyways, as far as lending goes, real estate, commercial, things like that.
Yeah, and you can see a couple of things. I don't want to go too fast here. All markets are making their plans 6 months out already, and I think that's important when we're going through what they're talking about here to understand that. That's what keeps things at bay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Keeps us out of a panic. Now, Angie had an interesting comment here. Heard the other day the IRS will be giving out bigger refunds this year. Fed is not expected to make cuts, but they are trying to give money in people's hands through taxes. Well, the bottom line is they changed the brackets. All I know is because it's tax season, so I think about it for 3 months. That the IRS did change tax brackets a little bit. And I think that's to account probably for inflation, maybe,
You mean they raised the tax bracket? They raised the dollar income up, and you paid, the same percentage for a little bit more money this year. Okay.
Yeah, you can make a little more money and pay the same, but those are your kind of numbers, not mine.
I hadn't seen the IRS changes what those were, but yeah.
Well, they haven't been making it a big deal, so I suspect that it's and it's an election year, so
Yeah.
anything that looks like a favor, wink, wink, you know.
It's a
Okay, so here's
2024 election favor.
yeah. Remember me come November. So here we are. Here's the 5 ways the Fed policymakers have adjusted their steering so far. The first one was from pain to a golden path. Now, this guy came from, and these are not all from Jerry, from Jerome Powell. This came from a guy whose name is Austin Goolsbee, and I watch him a lot. And we come from different places politically. We just do. But he comes along and says that they're going to actually be able to, remember not so long ago, Powell was talking about we're going to have to feel some pain. Janet Yellen seemed to be really the one that was talking about pain a lot. One of them was.
Yeah.
But now he says we're going to actually be the possibility of finding a golden path that skirted economic pain. The reason I mentioned that is when that comes up and people are, bless you, when that comes up and any kind of financial people are listening to it, they're thinking, that's good news. That's good news. So from pain to a golden path. And the second one is avoiding the mistake. You can take this if you want, Rodney. I think you had touched on this earlier.
Which mistake? Which one is it?
It's the second one is called avoiding the mistake. The biggest mistake we could make is really to fail to get inflation under control, Powell said last November.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're right. I mean, it's a balance. I guess it's their trending carefully or treading carefully. They don't want to mess this up. I mean, there's all kinds of language that they put out or they've talked about is that they feel like they're in a very good position for, like you've talked about, the inflation is near the 2% mark. It's continuing to show improvement there. And with, what they're thinking is March, they just don't want to mess it up. Like you said, they're turning the battleship, so they don't want to try to turn it too fast or turn it too slow. And that's all they're doing right now is figuring out the first time that they feel like they need to boost the economy with a rate cut.
Yeah. And that's where people are going to start getting, in my opinion, you watch this next few months, people are going to start getting anxious about rate cuts and staying level. Tomorrow, there's going to be, I think they're going to hold, and there's going to be somebody come out tomorrow afternoon saying, I think they should cut it, because they're on probably in some place that it hurts, who knows?
I mean, I'm like, for me, I'd love for them to cut it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because I do mortgage loans. I mean, I wish rates were really low, but that's just not the case right now. And is it would it be best for me? Sure it would. But is it best for the economy? Probably not. Is it best?
One of the ancillary articles that we had is last year, 2023, had some of the slowest sales figures in real estate in 10 years. I mean, if you remember 10 years ago, we were just crawling out of that mess from back then, And so we'd love to see some more activity, but that'd be a pretty selfish thing, because that'd be short-term gain for long-term gain.
I mean, you're running the risk of being right back where we was, 2 months ago, or I'm sorry, a year ago. Year and a half ago with crazy home prices and all that stuff.
Yeah. And so that's two. And so the third one is even hawks see the rate cuts. And this is what you had mentioned before, Michelle Bowman. This is the third signal out of the 5 that are screaming we're going to be seeing rate cuts come in the near future. When you have Michelle Bowman, who has been very hawkish, is starting to dove out a little bit, I guess.
Yes, starting to basically her and another one was the possibility of a rate cut, is because they were still open to a rate increase, less than 60 days ago.
Yep. And behind the scenes, what we're seeing is this. We're seeing the Fed nearing its inflation target, which I'm telling you, most people thought. I thought it was impossible. I mean, that was just, golly, how do you do that? Because he's managing an entire country and then some. I'm kind of impressed if you can't tell. Maybe shouldn't be, just because I'm kind of an idiot.
I mean, honestly, but it's, when they started, it's like crazy to think that the government, well, we need a bunch of people to lose jobs, so inflation come down. But it looks like we have got a really good chance of not seeing that.
Yeah, and so the last two things. So we've got through three of them. The last two, and I think we've touched on them, is balance the risk and the balancing the policy. We've just got to stay away from that inflation, keep things level. Yes, it hurts a little bit. It hurts a little bit, especially in the housing industry. In the last 2 months, I don't know about January, I haven't even looked, 80,000 realtors, real estate agents really, got out of the business across the country. 80,000 in the last 2 months, November, December.
Yeah. January is probably worse. January was I don't know if the rest of the country's seen snow, but we were, right after a holiday, we were shut down. This area was shut down for a couple of weeks with.
Yeah. And I mean, even, and so it'd be interesting to see what the agents do. It'd be, I don't want to get too much into that, but things are changing. And the final thing that we'll get in before we get into our next topic is treading carefully. These are all saying the same things, is that we're going to do what we're going to do, but we think it's the right thing to do. And then the fact is, the numbers back them up.
Yeah. And the treading carefully is that, honestly, they're in such a good position to do this thing, to end up coming out really well. They don't want to mess it up.
And here's how this looks, is the Fed risk sentiment seems to be coming down. It means people are comfortable with it. Those are the blue and the yellow. So, unemployment is staying relatively low. PCE index coming down. Got to have that to keep things cool. And the gross domestic product is coming back up. So, if they're managing all of that, and what is it we keep saying week after week, and I will not change that the economy goes on the hearts and minds of the consumers, and the markets. If we're positive overall, the markets are going to be doing well. If we're negative, that's when really the sky is kind of falling,
Yeah,
people can create that.
Yeah, the TV will get on, these trends quickly and either help crash the market, or help, generate it by publishing, everything's low rate, and things like that. So they'll get it going one way or the other.
Is this something that you can address?
Let's see here. Accelerated depreciation, renewed legislation will be huge for reinvesting. What's accelerated depreciation? You're talking about a tax? Is that a tax? Your tax strategy? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it's in the messages, so I don't know.
Accelerated depreciation, renewed legislation will be huge. I'm not sure what he's asking for.
It's Wendy. It's Wendy that's talking to us there.
Is she asking like the? I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think she's making a statement saying accelerated depreciation, renewed legislation will be huge for real estate investing. Yes, tax deductions. Yes.
So if the property, yes, if they come out and say yes, if the properties get hit, is that a tax deduction? Man, I am a tax moron. I'll be honest. I use a guy right next to my building, and I say, "Here's my stuff, and here you go." So I don't know. I've never heard.
We need to get her, Wendy. We need to get you on and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know is depreciate, like if your house depreciates in value and it's an investment property, do you get to write that off? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's I guess.
If you're asking me, I sure don't know.
Yeah.
That's not my strength.
Yeah.
We need to get Wendy on here. Yes, sir. The answer is yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, if it's a that would be I'm assuming that's not in there because I've never heard somebody, I've never heard that, because I know we don't do anything if it goes the other way. Like if we get equity, we don't have to claim that.
Interesting.
So,
all right.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah, we need to get, we'll have a tax day with Wendy on here, Wendy and Phil. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch base on is, and I'm sure that we have not talked about this except we've skated past it. I can deduct. We're gonna add one last thing here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, good. That means you can keep more in your pocket. Got it.
I know you could do the improvements and the normal or whatever interest, because sometimes you're probably, depends on what it is about the interest. But yeah.
Yep. Good. All right. So the next thing, as we're talking about housing, well, here we are. Here we are in the housing market. What we've got is we've got low inventory. Rates are high enough. What are the rates today, Rodney?
I haven't pulled them up. They're closer. I think they're in the high sixes.
6.8 probably, 6.7, 6.8.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, somewhere maybe a little bit lower.
Right. And so one of the things that I wanted to touch base on, and you hear about this a lot, is the silver tsunami. And I think that I don't think it's any surprise that what people scream about, and they really make a lot of noise about the silver tsunami changing the real estate market, that's the baby boomers are holding on to the houses with clutching with dear life, and that's why there's no inventory. And they think that all of a sudden there's going to be this wave of calamity, apparently, and then all of a sudden these properties are going to become available and fix our inventory problem. So there's two articles that I saw, and one is the Tides of Change housing market experts split on whether silver tsunami and baby boomer downsizing will begin in 2024, kind of timely. And then the other article is, will the silver tsunami change the 2024 housing market? It's a little more direct than that. And so here's the points that I'd like to make about this. And I've done videos on this, and I've looked this up. I've studied this for the longest time. Here's the deal. There's 38 million. Let's look. Let's make sure we've got this right. 33 million homes in America out of 128 households are owned by baby boomers. And so that would put you in the hot seat for having
33 million out of 128 million.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And that means if you're 60 to 65 or 60 and over, right? You could have a heart attack, which we know you don't have to be 60 for that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yikes. But here's what the thing is. This is what I'm trying to make. Why is the silver tsunami just not going to happen? Number one, advances in healthcare. I got news for you. People are living longer and healthier easily because healthcare is a heck of a lot better than it used to be even 20 years ago. So, somebody in their 80s, they're going to be hanging on to their 90s, no problem. Because skating into that, look at the president. Shouldn't have said that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Go.
this whole thing. You know, the people who wrote this article is getting a lot of credit for thinking something's actually going to happen. But a baby boomer is not 1 year. Like a baby boomer it's a span of a number of years.
Yes.
And then, so they're not all going to sell in 1 to 2 years. It's
Yes,
a 20 year span, and it should wash out in 20 years, like
right.
24 through 44. It's a cultural thing. It's all going to hit the wall at the same time. Everybody's going to get old on the same day and want to downsize.
Yes. And so then
go ahead.
So that and so what we're going through, here's the reasons that I don't agree with them at all. And the range is 46 to 64. That's the range of the baby boomers in there. So 18 years, close enough, you know. Active aging. I work out a lot. And you should see the place is packed with people my age. I happen to be a baby boomer myself. So active aging, that's going to keep people viable and stuff. Because what they keep thinking is that, number one, baby boomers are going to like die off en masse, right? Like a whole bunch of us kick the bucket Thursday.
Yeah. They'll give you 2024, but you got to be gone. Your property's got to be gone this year.
We've had technological innovations. I mean, think about that. Do you know what happened here just a few days ago? Was that neuronistic? What was that? Where Elon Musk implanted a device in somebody's head, and they have no control over their appendages apparently. But with this device, they're going to be able to operate computers and smartphones and stuff like that. You know, that's technology, right? And just within the last month, there was a guy that was a quadriplegic, or he couldn't walk. He couldn't walk, and they put an implant, and the guy's walking. You know, so just when you think,
yeah.
Just when you think you're losing in baby boomers, all we got to do is plug in overnight and we're good to go.
Thank goodness we got Elon Musk.
It's crazy. It's scary at the same time. It is. Because think about, everybody's heard of Chat GPT, right? Mm-hmm. And 6 months ago, it was like, what's that? You know? And now it's everything. I mean, it's changing everything. Changing retirement patterns. You know, they're talking about in Social Security moving the numbers up. No surprise there. It's a financial decision as much as anything. But at the same time, people are zipping into their 70s without much of a problem at all, you know. Government policies, urban planning and design, cultural shifts. All of these are just reasons that the silver tsunami ain't coming. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's going to be something that may add to the market over the next 18 years or whatever it is. But it's not going to be a tsunami.
It's not. And I think that, just to put a fine point on that, and then we can maybe touch on some of these other articles as we close up today. It used to be where nursing homes and assisted care facilities and things like that, I'm going to call it reasonable, but that used to be reasonable kind of. Mm-hmm. From what I know, and I've done a video on these things, I was like a little shocked on how expensive they are, that in order for somebody to stay at one of those things, they'd have to sell their house, and they would burn through the net profit, the proceeds, in just a few years. You know, they'd sell a house, make a couple hundred $1,000, and would burn through that in an especially assisted care facility fast. So you got to you got to recalculate, is in-home care a little more reasonable? That house isn't going anywhere, if it's going to burn through it that fast.
Yeah, it's I've seen it's a lot like the housing industry. I've had some personal experience with it, and some friends do it. But it's like you look out a county or two, and you get some really good quality, a really good quality service at a pretty good price. But just because the counties you're a little further out than like a metro area or something.
I didn't know that. That's a great thing to. No kidding. So I mean, you could go
it's just like, remind me of housing. It's like it's what people are doing now to be able to afford a house. They go a little bit further out. It's the same with those. You go a county or over, or so you get. We found some really good treatments with.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Never knew that. But it's like the old adage for houses anyway. You drive till you can afford it.
Yeah.
I'm in Lewisburg.
Well, yeah.
That's down there. So anyway, if you're counting on the silver tsunami, and that they really made a big thing about compressing that 20 years into one.
Yeah.
So that ain't going to happen. So let's go over just a couple of things, Rodney. That is, and I thought we'd finish this way. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 articles, only just a couple of thoughts on each one, that tells us, yeah, that's funny. Yes. yeah, we do.
Yeah, that makes me hard every day.
Yeah, we do.
I got 2 boys. I could see them spending money on their dad with a new wife and tow and babies. They're going to need their own money. I'm like, they got to be able to afford this.
Let's say we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I hope I'm dead before I hit that bridge, I guess is what I'm saying. So if we take a look, just a couple of things before we close up. We talked about the Fed and what they intend to do, and the impact that that's going to have not only on the economy, but on Rodney and I specifically. When those rates start to drop, our world is going to change. It's going to change. So what happened this last couple of months? Pending home sales rose 8.3% in December from the previous month. That's a good thing. Pending home sales are what's called a leading indicator. Those are where contracts are written, but they haven't been closed. The likelihood that a new contract, meaning a contract on new construction, the likelihood that doesn't close is higher than regular existing. That's just sort of the way that goes. But if it's up 10%, 8.3%, this is a good thing. It's reflecting the transactions for the future. So the market's saying we're happy with that. Yes, good. Okay. Yes. So we're on pace for, the NAR also released an updated forecast for existing home sales on Friday. The group expects existing home sales to increase in 24 this year by 13% from last year to 4.62. That's good.
Nice. Yeah.
That's good because we go ahead.
It's almost got to. I mean, it's almost got to. Like if we ended the last year, with almost 300 basis points better in rate, there's no way it's going to be a worse year just for that alone, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, our home sales was 3.7 last year. We closed out at 3.7. And here's the other thing. New home sales jumped as buyers snag lower rates. New home sales have been going crazy. I mean, they've been going nuts. But a lot of that, I believe, is because they're standing inventory. And I still get emails from new builds of we had interest on really good company to really good company. but they've clearly got standing inventory because a month ago they were offering me and my client $25,000 just for, hey, because
Yeah.
we're in this together. I got an email last week. It's 30,000 now. So they're really doing what they can to get these things off their books. And builders have the added benefit. Although if you're in a neighborhood, they're not going to be able to adjust the price necessarily because they're trying to protect the home values that are already existing. But what they can do is contribute in ways that are significant. Plus, they can throw in upgrades at no cost, and it doesn't show except in the house that you're living in. So new home sales data says that buyers are ready and willing to jump into the housing market, and we pent up demand. We talked about this every week. It's there. The rise in sales. Just one more thought, and then I want to chime in. The rise in sales was largely due to mortgage rates coming down towards the end of the year, which isn't that funny. Coming down to what? 6.5.
Yeah.
Or
coming down to coming all the way down.
yeah. Now, what were you going to say, Rodney? Or did you get ready to jump in there?
Just similar to what you were saying. I mean, it's jumping pending home sales, boosting new home sales. But the overall 23 was a off year. If you look at 23, it was an extremely low year. And I guess lastly would just be, the last thing 24 is going to be more of the same of dealing with record home prices. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see, home prices are not going to come down until, there's more inventory and more competition.
More competition is the only thing that's going to be forcing that down. And they had a great term in here. The intoxicating combo of lower rates and prices made more monthly mortgage payments more affordable for buyers, nudging many people off the sidelines. An intoxicating combo. Because there's people just dying to get in the market. They're just looking for that little bit of a nudge. Two other things. All right. Now this seems to be counterpoint to what we were just talking about. Now, as of January 18th, housing starts fell to 1.4 million annual pace for new homes from 1.3 in November. But what they're down is the builders scaled back constructing new single family homes. Well, how come? Because nobody can afford them. That's why. It leading to an 8% drop, but ramped up apartment starts.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Let's back up something here. Watching MLS seems prices are rising for singles and seems quite a few are coming back on the market. The answer to that is what you want to watch, here's the key to this kind of a thing. If you're watching housing, look at the days on the market. A house that has from 1 to 7, I'll say that might be a bit extreme, but inside of a week and being sold, that is a house that's sold properly. And the market is telling you what it's worth, because if it sells that fast, it means it's priced properly. Chances are really good that there's multiple offers, and people aren't going to go doing that crazy stuff like they used to a couple of years ago. That's pretty honest pricing if you see short days on market. You show me a house that's been on the market 30 days, look at its history, I can almost guarantee you that it started out higher than where it ended up. I mean, so I'm not completely sure about prices going up. I think people are still putting their houses on at a large percentage of the time too high because they want to see what's going to happen. And that's going to be a lesson that's learned over and over and over and over again. Can we just try it? And
This has been the same, honestly, since they sold a cave back in the caveman days.
It
If
is.
the cave is nice and you pull up to it and the outside of it looks nice, you go in, it's move-in ready and it's nice and it's priced reasonably well, it's going to sell. I mean, and if it's not, some of those other one or all of those other factors are missing. Period. I mean, it's really not that complicated. Um, you know, but yeah, I mean, what do you do? I don't understand what you do. Like in your position, my business is pretty cut and dry. You know, we got several ways to offer stuff and structure stuff.
Yes.
But you, it's
Yes.
like the homeowner sitting there, but do you mind trying? And because you know yourself, I'm sure it's happened. You've tried it. Everybody tried it in this last market, and it may have worked. You
It
know what I'm
worked.
saying? It may have worked for a lot of that particular market, but it's probably not going to work for the next 15 years. Until we get back to that crazy market. But
And people are going to continue to try because it's what I call a hot market hangover. And I don't blame people for, I
right,
mean, I don't blame it. But then if you're asking me, how do I handle that? The simple answer is when I go in and do a listing presentation, we're going to look at Mr. Jones, your house, and it's 3,500 square feet and it's $800,000 and it's stashed somewhere in Franklin or Brentwood, and that's what it is. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, standard acreage, 0.3 acres, something like that. And I'm going to bring in the comps that have sold, and I'm going to throw them out. One that's a little bit less, but it looks a little nicer than his. Does this look better or worse than yours? I don't ask him about his house because he would take it personally. But if you have, what is this? How about this one? Does this one look better or worse than yours? And they pretty soon get the idea of what it should be. If they insist on starting too high, the way I play it is, okay, I understand your question. We've got evidence. We're looking at it of you were saying you want 8, but 750 seems to be the number based on our evidence here. I just want you to know going in that the market is telling us, not your neighbor and not me. The market is telling us it's 750, but you want to try 8. Am I hearing you right? They're going to go, yes. As long as you understand that when nobody comes, if nobody comes, the market is going to be proven to be correct. Are you okay with that? And then they go, yeah.
That's a good way to handle it. Yeah, because what do you do? I mean, because it's like, well, let's try it. I mean, because it has happened in a crazy market. Somebody come in and pay it, and maybe all cash. But
what you're counting on is, with all due respect, somebody from out of state that doesn't know the market. They're on a short time frame. They got a new job. They got a week to find a house. They don't want to rent a place and move twice. And they just sold a place in Utah for $2 million. So a $900,000 house is an afterthought.
yeah,
Can that happen? You bet. You bet. And so that's why it'd be crazy to not at least try. I'm even saying try it.
yeah,
But just short term, because those are going to hit fast, because people wonder about, does the MLS, let me tell you something about home buyers. Nobody's looking for a house passively. They're not flipping through Facebook. Oh, look, honey, there's a $1.5 million house with an extra special pool. Want to buy a house? That's not how that happens. Home buyers are passionately digging and looking and searching and clicking and saving, and they're after it.
yeah.
So when your house comes on the market, everybody who's interested sees it, period.
Yeah.
Sorry, got off on track there.
Well,
so here's a
10 people. Is that I hope Philip's not a Titans fan. I mean,
let's talk about this one here. So in Chattanooga, I've seen prices come down some, trying to get off that topic.
You ain't getting off this topic. I ain't letting Phil off that easy. Bang, bang, Niner gang. We're going to take care of the Swifties this weekend. That Dave Campbell's a good feel-good story. We took care of him, all that Detroit. Oh, who cares? He hasn't been in the Super Bowl in a million years. My guy's a good story. Hey, my quarterback's the last pick of the draft 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? What a great story that is. He's going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to steal Taylor Swift, Kelsey's girlfriend, and we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Even he said, I've always been the last to get picked, and I've had to work harder than anybody else to get where I've gotten. When he was in an interview, I was like, that's a cool kid,
Yeah, I mean,
kid.
and what's crazy is, being and it's significant being an NFL football player, your minimum wage, or, just what this guy's making. But it's like college players are making way more than him, with the NIL money.
Yeah.
And I heard they offered that kid in Ohio State. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard they offered him $20 million to stay 1 year at that receiver.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, everything's going to change for Brock Purdy here. It's already changed. All right. So Chattanooga prices. Now, there's a thing, I'll look this up and have this ready for you next week. There's a thing called a heat map, and I think Zillow does it, that from city to city, the heat is different. Nashville, it's relative to Tennessee, it's almost always hot. Home prices are always hot. Chattanooga, not so much. Memphis, ice cold.
When you pull that up, send that to me, because I'd like to see it too. Because Chattanooga over the last few years has been growing.
It's been real popular.
I'm wondering if some of if that slows down due to the remote work, come back. Like if Chattanooga's still going to do that, if they can't take in remote workers, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. A friend of mine who is local found a partner in Chattanooga, specifically did that on purpose for investments, because you can go out and now we're talking like Detroit prices,
Wow.
for some of that stuff. Maybe not now, but a couple of years ago it was like $100,000 you could buy a house,
Yeah.
Well, we don't have anything. What?
No.
I don't know. But I'll look that heat map up. And what's the other main city out there for Tennessee? Knoxville. Don't know anything about that either. I just know Nashville's always hot.
Knoxville and Knoxville's pretty solid.
I actually hope I can't help it. I'm quite the sports fan, so I keep zipping out of my lane. Sorry about that. Can we do a stream about buying a money pit? What rights do a buyer have? I can protect the heck out of you with a yes. I don't know about doing a stream on it, but if we have a Q&A one day, we can go through that. No problem. No problem.
Yeah, and that's that at the start of the show. That's kind of what I was talking about. A friend of mine was looking at buying a assignment, a contract. Instead of trying to buy it directly from buying it direct from the seller. So that creates a bunch of problems and all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah, those called wholesalers. Have you ever had to deal with that before?
Yes. Now, why are they? And I asked this guy the same thing, and I didn't know if he took it wrong. But why are they called wholesalers? Because it's a deed transfer. There's no wholesale. There's no you go buy multiple deeds, and it's a one-on-one sale. Why?
It is. Here's the reason they use that term. Because and this is the only place I don't know that I'm necessarily a fan. I shouldn't judge. I'm not going to judge. There's a lot of people that do it. When you see stuff online, when these people are calling about houses, the first question I ask is it you buying? And they'll say, no, I've got a partner. And I says, right, you're using OP, other people's money. What happens is they'll have an investor that has a lot of bank, and they'll get these kids essentially to go out and bird dog houses for them. And then they'll do a split on that. But here's what I'm talking about: the wholesalers. If there's value to be had with those guys, what they do is, and I think this is awful, is they'll go find a house that needs a lot of work, too much work usually, and they'll give them X amount of dollars. Let's say that a house is, if it was fixed up, it was worth $250. They'll go in and they'll give this home seller $100,000. They probably owe 80. They keep 20, and then they're going to buy it from that seller, and then they'll assign it and still be able to claim that 250 value when they're promoting it, and they'll sell that contract usually for $25,000 is usually what it runs. So that third person comes along, buys the contract for $100 a quarter, and that's why they call it wholesale, is because he's digging that house out of no place. The seller hasn't reached out to find out what the value of his home is. He just literally got knocked on his door, or usually it's a mail out is what happens. Yeah. So their only value, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, is digging up, I want to call them nuggets, but I don't like the way that it goes. You know, it's not a favor to the seller. And that's
the things I've seen with them. I've never seen a seller under 70, and I've never seen the seller get a good deal. But I can't do them, but I just see the front end of them. I just see the contract. I see the seller. I see the person. And it's never a, I don't even know how the customers asking, well, what do I do about a home inspection? I was like, I have not only a home inspection, I'm like, I would be getting multiple bid repairs on what it's going to take to fix this house, because I don't even know if you have a seller. Like, you're buying a contract. So you're not buying a home, you're buying a
contract. It's already baked in. Right. The contract's already baked in,
Right. So you're buying a contract. So you're really not buying it. You don't have a seller of a home. You have something else. I'm like, if something were to happen, say you go in there and that foundation was something that was supposed to be disclosed, who do you go to? You bought a contract. You didn't have a seller.
Correct. Yeah. And I think, and this is just my opinion. So if somebody could beat me up for this, that's fine. It's still my opinion. When you're selling contracts, I think that the wholesale, I'm going to call them a wholesale for lack of a better term, the wholesaler and the ultimate end buyer, they know that they're screwing the seller. They know it. They just do.
I mean, I haven't seen enough of them, but everyone I've seen, it's like, the one, but see, on this one, I haven't seen a lot of the contract and all that stuff, but the last one I seen, I mean, we had to do, it just felt like we had to do so much extra work, compliance work, because the original seller was old. And I'm like, how is this not, taking advantage of elderly and all that? So,
and sometimes I've dealt, and this has happened in the past, when you're dealing with an elderly person, when they get something in their head, it's worth 600. I'm going to pick a number. House is worth 4. They're saying, but it's worth 6. And here's why, because my neighbor is nice, whatever. You're not going to change their mind. You're not, you're just not. So that's how that happens. Anyway, so last thought before we blast out of here. Feel like my daughter was reamed with her house. No way the seller didn't know about any of the issues. It is, in my opinion, the buyer's agent's responsibility to make sure that the buyer knows everything possible about that house. Period. That's period. And so, but it's still, even with inspections, it's still caveat emptor, buyer beware. So,
yeah, you got to, and that you got to do your due diligence and get your inspections. And
well, This was fun. This was a cool day. This is Angie. Yeah. Oh, and she had a home inspection. Probably didn't. Yeah. Depend. Yeah. Angie, thank you for being here. Phil, Wendy, thank you for being in here. We loved seeing you guys this week. Rodney, I can't thank you enough. I'm glad you had good luck. You're going to be eating duck sandwiches or duck soup, or how does that work? Some kind of duck, right?
Yeah, it's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, my son actually really likes to cook them a lot. They're dark meat. I don't eat it all the time. It's more like we have a lot of them for like appetizers and stuff when we have cookouts and stuff like that. So
nice. All right, Rodney. Well, we will thank you again. Any final words?
No, enjoyed it. Had a great show. Good seeing everybody. We'll see everybody next week.
See you next week. Bye, Angie. Bye, Wendy. Bye, Phil. Bye, Rodney.